Hey, how's it going, guys? Today I'm checking out the Plimpton P60 Android tablet. This is the newest Android tablet I've seen out, but it's still running Android 11. You got all the specs back here. What's surprising about this is that compared to other tablets, we've got 6GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage. I'm really glad that they have this. This is the new standard, or it should be at least. In the box, you get the quick start guide, USB-C cable, a wall outlet, USB wall outlet, a pin for the microSD card slot. Then there's a silly little bookmark that says lifetime warranty, and I don't buy it. A lot of these unknown brands come and go. That's not to say that this will go immediately, but you just can't, I just don't believe that it's going to have lifetime warranty personally. This thing is built pretty nicely, has a metal body, and it's kind of thick, but nothing too crazy. On the camera side is where most of the ports and buttons are located. Believe it or not, there's still a 3.5mm headphone jack above, along with the microSD card slot. The camera itself is protruding quite a bit. I will say though, this is one of the better cameras I've seen on a tablet, front and back. I'm not sure if it has to do with the post-processing, but either way, I'll take what I can get. Don't get me wrong though, it's still far from perfect. The best shots you'll get are during the daytime, in broad daylight. Going back to the tablet, on the bottom you've got two speaker grills and a 5-pin magnet. This is for the keyboard that's sold separately. Right now I've got the one that they sent in for the PlimpPad P50, but this does work on this. Although I will say it doesn't hold up too well because it's mainly held on by the magnets itself. Otherwise it's kind of loosely on there. So actually, this is definitely a deal breaker because if it can't hold it, what's the point of having a case? Unless if you're just looking for the keyboard and trackpad, then that's a different story. And this does act like a stand, so there's that. The keyboard is a small layout or small size. There is some good feedback there though, so there's no problem in that end. And there is a trackpad, but it's not as good as I'd expected it to be. I mean, sure, you can move it around with your mouse, but to scroll up and down, it's just kind of choppy. Out of the box, there's a little over 115GB of storage available. Again, this should be the standard, and there's not too much bloatware either, which is great. What's kind of ironic is that this has Netflix pre-installed that you can't uninstall, but it has a Widevine certification of L3. That means videos on most streaming platforms, including Netflix, are capped at 480p. You can't watch videos in Full HD except on YouTube. And the screen is decent. It has 300 nits, which I want to say is a little bit more than your average budget tablet, but nothing too crazy. I'm personally not a fan of the speakers. They don't sound too loud and they get kind of tinny, so there's that. The one place where this redeems itself is in performance. Now, with the specs and the Geekbench scores, you're not really going to notice anything too crazy or out of line, but for what it's worth, this actually performs quite well. With having 6GB of RAM, you're able to multitask pretty easily without any major lag. And that's kind of rare. I've actually never really seen that before on a budget device at this caliber. For basic tasks like web browsing, this is more than enough. But let's say you want to do something more, like gaming. Well, that's also possible. First game I'm checking out here is Runescape, and not the old school Runescape. The graphics are set to kind of balance to low end. I have the frame rate set to 35 and it worked just fine. I tried raising it to 60 and it did work, but there were some more hiccups here and there that I noticed, and at certain points it was smoother, but then there were other times when I was just simply walking around and noticed quite a bit of frame rate drops and a little bit of stuttering, and obviously it's not appealing or anything, but overall the gameplay is fine, I would say. Despite those little hiccups here and there, it's definitely playable. Here's a little bit more gameplay from RuneScape that I had. Next game here is Genshin Impact, and the graphics I had set were at the lowest settings that possible, and even the frame rate was at 30. Now you can lower it to 24 if it still lags, and you can raise it all the way up to 45 or 60, but when I tried that, it said it was too high. And the gameplay you're seeing right now is at 30 frames per second, and it was definitely playable. 30 frames works great, so I had to step it up to 60. Even though it says it's going to be overclocked or overheating, I had no problems whatsoever with it overheating, by the way. It did get a little warm to the touch, but it wasn't that bad. But when I did step it up to 60 frames, I did notice a bit more stutters here and there, and the frame rate was not as smooth compared to 30. So I guess 30 is the sweet spot there. Either way, you should keep it at 30, because if it's constantly being overclocked, you're going to damage your CPU over time. Finally, I had to try out Apex Legends, and everything is set to the lowest graphics you can get to, except for the frame rate, which was high. And I think that because it was high, it wasn't as smooth, especially just looking around. It seemed like it lagged a little bit, or the frame rate wasn't that smooth. But in fighting and gameplay, it was actually playable, definitely tolerable, which is kind of surprising. And in general, I just want to say I'm surprised to see Apex Legends being playable and optimized on a mobile device. I never thought this would be possible, actually, but here we are. But I digress. Going back to it, yeah, gameplay is fine. You can check it out for yourself a little bit more here. In terms of battery life, I haven't tested it out too thoroughly, but for the little bit that I did get to do for a few days or weeks, it is really good. It has a 7,000 milliamp hour battery. Now, it may not sound like much compared to iPads, but it's still quite a bit, because I had a screenshot where it showed that I had a little bit over 50% of battery life left, and that was with having the screen on for a little over 3 hours and playing games most of the time. So with moderate use, you'll easily get a day plus out of this. Even with gaming, you'll still get a day out of it. Overall, the Plimpton P60 is a step up for budget tablets. This thing has pretty much everything I'd want in it, minus the widevine level. The camera was also decent. I wish the speakers were a little better, or at least front-facing. I always complain about that, but it's true. It would be nice if they were front-facing, because you can hear them a little better, even if they are tinny. At the time of this video, this is going for around $150, $160. I'll have links down below for it, but let me know what you guys think. Is there a better tablet out there? Because this is a solid choice to pick up right now. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe for more. As always, thanks for watching.